We got how a pizza delivery boy built a $38 million drug empire. Let's check it out, bro.
We have a couple teenagers who trade pizza delivery for marijuana smuggling, and they ended up building a $60 million illegal business.
This couldn't be the Nate that
Wow.
I mean, he was a nerd, but sure enough, there he is, facing trial.
It beat them nerds, bro. It beat them sneaky nerds. You gotta watch them. You gotta keep your eyes peeled for them. I'm telling you, bro. It beat them little white kids. Not just saying white people, but you know what I'm talking about. It beat a little nerdy little kid. Feel me? With the glasses or some shit. And you never would have think that he would be on this. But he be the one millions
Clark
up off some illegal shit.
Millions of dollars worth of
It
pot
be
from
like
Canada
that.
into North Idaho.
And then all of a sudden the world just changes and you've got millions of dollars and everyone wants to be your friend because they're attracted to the money and the power. It's like a crime teen dramedy thriller.
A teenager running a $38 million criminal empire sounds insane, but for Nate Norman, it was real life. Even crazier, most of his crew were also teenagers, and together they built one of the biggest smuggling operations in America.
God
And through it
damn.
all,
Here we
these
go.
kids had one rule: don't let mom and dad find out. This is the crazy story of how a high school kid created a $38 billion drug empire.
All right, let's check it out.
And you are awesome.
Appreciate it,
The
bro.
last person you would expect.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? You said I'm awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Nate Norman was the last person anyone would ever call a criminal mastermind, and there were three big reasons why. First, his age. Nate was only 19, still a teenager.
19 is
Second, he had a
crazy.
reputation for being a really good kid, the kind of person that would go out of his way to help somebody. There was even a story about how Nate helped an old lady who lived across the street. Her driveway would get blocked every time the snowplow would go by, and Nate would always run over and shovel her driveway. But anytime the old lady offered him money, he turned it down. That's just who he was. The third reason Nate seemed harmless was
So he really like a good boy type shit, or that's like the image that he portrayed.
grew up. Nate lived in a quiet lakeside city in Idaho. It looked like something
Idaho.
off a postcard. It had spectacular mountains, clear lakes, and clean air. But
Idaho
there
was crazy.
Nate was a sweet, small-town kid with zero criminal tendencies. At least, that's how it seemed. But there was one thing about Nate that changed everything. One flaw that set him on the path to becoming a drug kingpin.
That nigga look 40 years
He had
old,
a
nigga.
puppy dog need for approval, and that desperate need would send him down a dark path. Nate was never one of the popular kids. Friends described him as a fat, funny kid. He was one of those guys everybody used to pick on, and for Nate that stung. He wasn't
Makes sense.
smart either. Nate struggled in class and eventually dropped out of high school. While his
Damn.
classmates planned for college, Nate got a job delivering pizza. But like most teenagers, Nate wanted to be cool. He wanted to be noticed and admired. Soon he figured out how. He realized that there was one thing that could make anyone a little more popular: weed. And for a demonetization
So he was selling weed through his job, but he was making it seem like he was delivering pizzas.
sake, we're going to be referring to marijuana as grass. A lot of teens in his town smoked even though it was illegal.
That's
Grass
smart
was
as fuck.
always in demand, but it was hard to get. So anyone who had it instantly became more popular. Soon, Nate made sure he always had some to give away. According to one report,
Give
having
away?
grass gave
Give away? He giving it away? How the fuck are you doing
a
that?
way to earn the love, or at least tolerance, of his peers.
Giving away weed for
Like,
friends?
Nate
Lame ass nigga.
everything. But then Nate stumbled onto something bigger, something that could give him more than just popularity. It could give him money, power, and status. It was 2001. Back then, Nate spent his days delivering pizza and hanging out with his friends. One day, while with his friend Topher Clark, they came across a magazine. The cover story was about the booming marijuana industry in Canada.
Shit.
After reading the article, Nate summarized it this way: if you want good grass, go to the Canadian border with a backpack. Across the border, massive farms were producing some of the highest grade grass in the world. It was called BC Bud. In Canada, a pound of BC Bud cost about $1,400.
Damn.
In Idaho, that same pound sold for
Way more because it's traveling from far as hell. Damn.
more than double the price. Nate and Topher immediately saw the opportunity. Buy cheap in Canada, bring it back across the border, sell it high in Idaho, repeat. The numbers were
Woo! And that's how it happened. That's how it happened right there. You find a market, and you just see, oh, over here we can get it for this, but over here in the States we can sell it for double or more. Let's buy it. We got a supplier that's gonna, you know what I'm saying, bro. They did that for weed or grass, whatever the hell they saying, but you can do that for any product, bro. You can do that for any product in the world. AirPods, clothing, shoes, jewelry, like it don't matter what it is, bro. Just like it's the same shit, bro. Look, they sell for $3,000 over here in the US. But over here in Canada,
Nate and Topher immediately saw the opportunity. Buy cheap in Canada, bring it back.
it sells for
across the
in
border,
Canada for
sell
way
it high
cheaper.
in Idaho, repeat. The numbers
Same
were
thing.
appealing. Law enforcement estimated the sale of BC Bud is a $7 billion a year industry. That meant there was so much money to be made.
$7
Check
billion?
the map. The Canadian border was so close, just a few hours away from their town. But there was just one problem. How could they smuggle pot across the border without getting caught? The border between the United States and Canada is the longest international border in the world. There are official checkpoints where officers inspect every person and every vehicle. They check passports, search cars, and stop anything illegal from getting through. Getting caught smuggling meant years in prison. But people still did it. Experienced smugglers hid pot in buses, mobile homes, and even horse trailers. They packed it so well that officers missed it during inspection.
Bro, I seen the documentary. They talking about El Chapo used to ship like big ass cans of peppers, like hundreds of cans of peppers in one truck through the border, and like all of the cans that have peppers in them, except for like 7 of them, and the 7 of them be filled with drugs or some shit. And they ain't finna search every single can. That's how I used to get drugs through that bitch like a motherfucker.
Smugglers even went further. One dug a 360-foot underground tunnel to move pot across the border. Others
Damn.
used kayaks to slip
Nigga dug a
through
tunnel?
waterways. Some even flew small planes over the border. With these kids, Nate and Topher didn't have those resources. Their only option was to hike through the woods. In certain areas, the border cuts through forests, lakes, and mountains, making it impossible to monitor every inch. Nate and Topher figured they could hike the 7-mile border.
Are you fucking serious, nigga? They finna hike with drugs on their back. They finna hike on foot. Are you serious,
Border
nigga?
crossing through the forest on foot.
You can't be serious.
The terrain was rough. The wilderness was unpredictable. There were wild animals in the woods, but they were willing to risk everything, even their lives, to make it happen.
To be cool.
The
Niggas want to risk everything to be cool, bruh. You gotta be kidding me,
Topher
dog.
scraped together every dollar they could find. Between odd jobs, borrowed cash, and savings, they pulled together $1,500. They drove up to Creston, a small farming town near the Canadian border. Then they headed to a local bar searching for a dealer. Within hours, they found one. The boys paid $1,400 for a pound of BC Bud. Then they stuffed it into a backpack and left. That was easy. The hard part was getting it across the border without getting caught. Their plan was straightforward. Nate would drive back across the border acting like a normal traveler. Meanwhile, Topher would hike 7 miles through the woods carrying the product in his backpack. It sounded simple, but it wasn't. There were
This is not a good idea, bro. This is not a good idea.
back across the border acting like a normal traveler. Meanwhile, Topher would hike 7 miles through the woods carrying
7
the product in
miles?
his backpack. It sounded simple, but
Nigga hiking 7 miles just so he can get some hoes. Imagine you being that lame. You can't just talk to somebody and be friends with people. You feel like you gotta hike all the way through this shit just to get weed so motherfuckers will fuck with you. That's some lame shit.
it wasn't. There were grizzly bears and mountain lions in the woods, and a wrong turn could get you lost for days. If Topher
For
didn't
life.
make it back before nightfall, you could freeze, get lost, or run straight into predators. Still, they went through with it. The journey began hour after hour. Topher pushed forward through the woods. Finally, he made it to the other side safely. Nate was waiting to meet him. The first run proved the impossible was possible. It was terrifying, risky, and dumb, but it worked. And now they wanted to do it again. Back home, Nate and Topher sold the entire pound in a couple of hours. They doubled their money. The speed of that first sale made one thing clear. Demand was
They
high.
work. They
Now,
work.
Nate and Topher had the
Holy
back.
shit.
This
They finna do that again. Imagine doing this shit, bro. Like, And they only made like $1,500 because they bought it for like $1,400, sold it for like 3 bands. So they didn't make that much, bro.
This time they bought 2 pounds. It sold out instantly. Within weeks, Nate and Topher were making regular runs, a few pounds at a time. Each crossing was equally dangerous, but every success made them bolder. At first, they sold only to friends and acquaintances. Even on that small scale,
Wow.
they doubled, sometimes tripled their profits. Soon, they were making 20 or 30 grand a week. For a 19-year-old high school dropout or anyone at all, it was life-changing money.
Right.
But it wasn't enough. Nate had a target. His plan was to make $3 million and get out. But success has a way of changing plans. Making all that money gave Nate something he never
3
had.
million? That's what his goal
He
was?
didn't want to stop at 3 million. He wanted to
Yeah.
build an empire. Nate and Topher realized they
That's how they get you. Damn. They get you, bro. That's how they get you, nigga. They let you think you're getting away with it. They let you, oh yeah, we're gonna let them keep running it up off there. Yeah. Bro, all right. They just waiting, bro. Cause niggas, they know niggas getting greedy, bro. They know niggas get greedy. They can't, no, they don't know when to stop.
keep doing everything
They know that.
themselves. So Nate turned to the only people he trusted, friends and old classmates. Within months, Nate had a crew. None of them were hardened criminals. Most never broke the law before, but they all wanted easy money. When their operation was at its height, it included at least 32 people.
All
Topher
hiking
was
across
in
the
charge
shit.
of the new recruits. He led them on the 7-mile hikes through the
What?
woods. But now that they had money, they upgraded. They bought new boots to make the trek easier, night vision goggles to see in the dark, camouflage gear to blend into the forest, first aid kits, bear spray. They even bought a spray that was supposed to make them invisible to heat sensors.
This is crazy work,
Simple.
nigga.
The crew crossed the border 6 at a time, carrying bags filled with cash. Sometimes they carried as much as $400,000 in a single trip. In Canada,
If they have any firearms, they didn't have no nothing. That would have been the easiest lick of all time. Imagine you just see these
they carried as
niggas.
much as
Oh my
$400,000 in a single trip. In Canada, they would exchange the money for a product. Then they would hike back through the woods with backpacks full of pot. Cash went one way, product came back.
That's
But it never
crazy.
stopped being dangerous. One time, the crew got lost in the woods and nearly froze to death. Luckily, no
Ooh.
one got seriously hurt, so they kept going. They even started enjoying the trips. Nate sometimes joined them. He later said the adrenaline rush of walking in the woods at night. The thrill is addicting.
I could definitely see how that shit is addictive though, bro. Oh God, cause like you don't know what's gonna happen, nigga.
Soon,
Like
Nate was supplying entire dealer networks across Idaho. The crew was flush with cash. Then they hit a new problem. Although they were making
Police.
millions, they couldn't spend it freely. Almost everyone involved was in their teens and early 20s. Most still were living with their moms. They didn't want their parents finding out what they were doing. Flashing
and they
setting-
parents didn't know the whole time is what's really crazy, nigga. Like, how y'all doing this every day? Y'all hiking this, y'all doing this long ass hike, and y'all parents don't know nothing. How?
Wealth would raise suspicion. Cops could even start asking questions. After risking their lives and freedom, the kids were rich but trapped. That's when Nate's puppy dog need for approval kicked in again. Nate didn't just want the money. He wanted respect. And now that he was rich, he thought he could buy it. So Nate started spending. His friends followed suit. And from there, things got out of control fast. Young, wild, and rich.
Damn, nigga could have been
His
straight.
friends didn't hold back. They bought 4-wheelers, jet skis, and gold jewelry. They also threw massive parties that every kid in town heard about. But their biggest splurge and the hardest thing to hide was on enormous lakefront homes. Some of them bought, others rented, but these weren't ordinary houses. They
Wow.
were mansions.
It's like all these niggas that do these like crazy come ups on this type of money, they all blow it on shit like this. They all buy dumb cars, hella clothes, hella cribs, spend money on hoes, clubs. It's like they all do the same shit. I watched the other nigga that did the $300 million crypto heist. He did the exact same shit and blew all the money, went to jail.
Its place had 8
They all do the
bedrooms
same
and
shit.
indoor swimming pool.
Why is that possible?
Overnight,
Like, why
Nate's
is that?
crew became the coolest kids in town.
Of course.
He was enjoying his newfound popularity too much because soon he came up with a ridiculous idea. He wanted to look like a kingpin. People said Nate started acting like Tony Montana from the movie Scarface. Scarface is one of the most iconic films ever made. It follows a Cuban immigrant, Tony Montana, who builds a massive criminal empire in Miami. Tony Montana became the blueprint for wannabe drug lords everywhere.
Right.
Flashy suits and gold chains. He carried firearms constantly. He spoke with a distinct accent. Nate was reportedly inspired by that. So Nate started talking with an accent, copying Montana's swagger. People said he became cocky and disrespectful. Nate also bought several firearms, including an automatic one. He even started dating a stripper 7 years older than him. Topher, Nate's partner.
He going out sad, bro. Sadness is in his future, bro. Look what he's doing.
From the very beginning, watched the transformation unfold. Topher described it this way. Nate went from having this humble personality to thinking he was this badass smuggler no one could touch. He would drive around town with his 24-inch rims and diamond chains, listening to hardcore rap. Just this perfect drug dealer image. And people were starting to fear him because he had power and money. Nate wasn't the same person anymore.
All the time he a fucking lame ass.
He started using substances, particularly white powder. It wasn't surprising because Tony Montana from Scarface did the same. But the substances made Nate paranoid. And now that he had weapons, it also made him dangerous. There's one story that shows just how dangerous. One night, Nate and his crew threw a huge party. Over 100 people packed the house. Everyone was drinking, dancing, and having fun. Then a fight broke out over a girl. The place erupted. People were yelling, shoving, and screaming. In the chaos, Nate grabbed one of his biggest weapons and shot it off in the house. Someone who was there said it sounded like a bomb went off. Everyone ran out of the party screaming. Ooh. That was the new Nate. Nate the Kingpin. Meanwhile, Topher was becoming anxious. He wanted to quit the business. After all, he already
So one of them want to quit, the other nigga want to keep going.
Live comfortably. But when he told Nate he wanted out, Nate refused. Remember, Topher was the one who trained the runners. He was the one keeping the product moving safely through the woods. Nate couldn't afford to lose him, so he offered Topher more money to stay. Topher reluctantly agreed. But deep down, Topher knew something bad was coming.
That damn Topher, man.
This was going to have a horrible ending. He had no idea how right he was. Nate and his crew thought the cops were their biggest problem. They were wrong. Other smuggling crews were watching them closely. To them, Nate and his boys weren't just kids. They were competition. And in this business, competition was
gets killed. Yeah, they kill niggas, boy. You competition, they say you gotta die.
Rivals.
Over with.
Just a few miles away, another young smuggler was making moves. His name was Brendan Butler. Brendan was only 20, close to Nate's age, and he ran his own grass operation in the same area as Nate. One article described Brendan as Nate's most serious rival. Brendan was very different than Nate. Nate was a high school.
And this is in Idaho, bro. Idaho. Like, this is in Idaho. Like, nigga, I never even heard of no shit going down over there in Idaho. I'd be like, what?
Dropout.
The fuck is
Brendan
that?
graduated with honors from a private prep school. Nate wasn't book smart, but Brendan excelled in school. Nate grew up in a working class family, but Brendan's parents were wealthy. Despite their differences, they had one thing in common. They both wanted to look tough. We've already seen how Nate modeled himself after Tony Montana. Brendan also created his own gangster persona. He drove around town with a low-riding 93 Eldorado with tinted windows and tricked out rims. He used
niggas popping it.
and
They
acted
popping
the
it.
part. At first, the two stayed out of each other's way. Nate had his buyers, Brendan had his. But as Nate's business grew, their worlds collided. They were chasing the same customers, fighting for the same suppliers, and moving into each other's territories. Arguments turned into confrontations. Confrontations turned into threats. But Brendan wasn't making idle threats. It became personal for him. He began to hate Nate. Soon, Brendan Butler decided to do the unthinkable.
He tried to kill him?
To end Nate for good. By early 2002, Brendan started looking for a hitman. He found a man named Giovanni, also known as Gio. Gio wasn't a professional killer. He was a graphic artist who did hits as a side hustle.
A graphic artist that did hits on the side. What the fuck?
Recruited two friends to help him with the job. Brendan's orders were clear. He wanted them to rob Nate and then end him. Brendan believed that taking Nate out would collapse the entire operation. The hitmen agreed to do the job for $100,000. Brendan gave them $5,000 up front. But what Brendan did next showed how much of a wannabe gangster he was. He went shopping with the hitman. Brendan joined Gio and his crew on a trip to Kmart. They bought black shoes, pants, and gloves.
This gotta be the most dumbest shit I ever seen. You hired a hitman multiple hitmen, and then you take them shopping where there's cameras everywhere. Are you fucking dumb? And look what they buying. They buying black shoes, black pants, black gloves, nigga. Like, come on, bro. What the fuck are y'all doing,
showed
man?
how much of a wannabe gangster he was. He went shopping with the hitman.
How dumb can you be?
Gio and his crew on a trip to Kmart. They bought black shoes, pants and gloves, and windbreakers, as well as tarps for disposing of the bodies. Brendan thought he was running the show. He even gave the crew tools for the job, but his plan was about to fall apart. It would become one of the worst fumbles in assassination history. In June 2002, the hitmen made their move. That same night,
This is a real fucking story, by the way.
Brendan hosted a big alibi party so
It's crazy.
he could be implicated. It could be used as evidence that he was somewhere else when the incident took place. Miles away, the hitmen broke into the home of one of Nate's close allies, a guy called Scuzz. They robbed Scuzz and then let him go. Afterward, they went straight to Brendan and split the stolen cash. It was a catastrophic mistake. By robbing Nate's ally, they
told
tipped
him
off Nate's entire crew. Everyone now knew someone was coming after them, and that's exactly what happened. When Nate heard about the robbery, he became paranoid. He didn't know who was behind it, but his operation went on high alert. Getting close to him became nearly impossible, and that's when everything flipped. Brendan started fighting with his own hitmen. Brendan still owed Gio $95,000 of the $100,000 for the hit, but he refused to pay until the job was done. But now Nate's crew was on edge, so getting to him was almost impossible. The job couldn't be done. Brendan kept feeding the hit.
Oh shit! This is a good ass story, boy. I am not lying.
Men information about Nate and his crew.
It's over
Much
with.
of
They're
it
not
turned out to be
finna get the
wrong
bro.
information. Every failed attempt made them angrier. The tension built for months. Brendan and the hitmen argued constantly. By October 2002, everything boiled over. Brendan arranged to meet the hitmen in a remote campsite. He brought them there to show the men a remote location to dispose of the bodies. But at the meeting, they argued about money. According to police reports, Brendan's wannabe gangster persona apparently rubbed the group of
And they
actual
popped him.
gangsters the wrong way. Gio snapped. He got physical with Brendan and ended him on the spot. In a cruel
What?
twist of fate, Brendan Butler, Nate's biggest rival, was taken out by the very hitmen he hired to attack Nate. They dragged his body into the woods and left him beneath the trees. For almost a month,
Damn.
no one knew what happened to Brendan. His wealthy parents launched an all-out search. Then a woodcutter stumbled across his remains deep in the woods. The discovery shocked the entire town. Police launched a homicide
What the fuck? Now, mind y'all, this is a good boy. This is not a nigga that you would think is a gangster or at least living their life. This is a good boy. He's a good boy. Like, bro. And he's dead because he want to do something that he not.
investigation.
Why
They
can't
combed
niggas
through
be
Brendan's
theyself
phone
nowadays,
records and
man?
messages. That's when they found
The
the hitman's number. Gio was now a suspect. Police arrested Gio and his crew in March 2003, about 5 months after the crime. The hitmen confessed. They told investigators everything: Brendan's pot operation, his rivalry with Nate, and the failed assassination plot. All the secrets were out. Police already noticed the surge of Canadian grass flowing into Idaho. Now there was a body on the ground. This wasn't a small town smuggling anymore. It was organized crime. And with Brendan gone, Nate was now the undisputed kingpin. If police could bring him down, they could choke off the entire supply chain. From that moment, Nate had a massive target on his back. Pressure from all sides. In mid-2003,
This is how that shit be, dog. Like, when folks get to dying, then that's how you know it's something serious. Like, niggas, folks is really dying behind shit, bro. Like, after that, you can't tell nobody what to do. Because, like, you can't tell nobody how to feel about when somebody get popped. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough.
Nate's empire
It's tough,
looked
bro.
unstoppable on paper, but in reality, it was falling apart. After Brendan's demise, law enforcement turned up the heat. Police began running surveillance on Nate's crew. Even the FBI got involved. The cops wanted Nate. All they needed was proof. Agents followed cars. Phones were tapped. Stash houses were mapped. Nate and his guys were shaken, not just because of the police, but mainly because of how Brendan lost his life. For the first time, Nate understood just how deep he was in. They realized this wasn't just kids smuggling grass anymore. They were in a world of hitmen, revenge, and violent
Yeah, bro.
Now the cops were watching everything. Most of Nate's network was made up of young teenagers. They weren't built for this kind of pressure. pressure. By April 2003, Nate and his
Somebody finna tell. Somebody finna tell.
crew made a decision. Get out while they still could. They had
Yeah, right.
millions of dollars stashed away. If they moved fast, they could disappear. One of the boys rented a U-Haul and drove it to the mansion to start packing. What they didn't realize was the cops were surveilling almost every house tied to Nate's crew. When they spotted the U-Haul, they knew what was happening. The kids were about to run. They couldn't let that happen. Police raided the house. They seized weapons, cash, grass, and computers. Everyone there was arrested. But Nate and Topher weren't there. Under interrogation, the crew broke instantly. Everyone told on everyone. Some even became informants. And thanks to the information they gave up,
How did I know, bro? It always happen like this. Somebody gonna tell. That's why it's hard to trust niggas, man. Hard to do shit. It's hard to do shit with niggas, man. Niggas gonna tell.
bigger case. By November 2003, police struck again. In one sweep, they made 14 arrests, including Scuzz, Topher, and others. They even arrested Nate's stripper girlfriend, Buffy, but one name was still missing:
Damn.
Nate Norman. With most of his crew behind bars, Nate disappeared. He was on the run for several months, but he couldn't run forever. Eventually, Nate turned himself in. When police finally met Nate face to face, they were stunned. A reporter described the reaction. They were like, "This is the guy who orchestrated a multi-million-dollar operation, and he looks like and has the job skills
That's
of a
him?
pizza delivery boy," but it wasn't truly over. Not yet. Nate surrendering didn't mean giving up. He hired expensive lawyers to fight the case. The multi-million-dollar kid kingpin was about to go head-to-head with federal prosecutors.
What?
The question was,
And he doing eight.
could Nate actually get out of this? Kingpin in court.
Bro, if he win this shit,
21 when he went to court in 2004.
That's crazy,
The prosecution came
nigga.
down hard. Nate wasn't treated like a kid who made bad choices. He was portrayed as the kingpin of a drug empire. If Nate lost the case, he was facing 10 to 12 years behind bars. Prosecutors accused Nate's crew of smuggling $38 million worth of grass. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, pounds of seized product, and recorded conversations with the crew. But it got worse. Multiple members of Nate's own crew testified against him in exchange for lighter sentences. With the case stacked against him, Nate had no way out. He took a deal pleading guilty to 5 of the 59 counts against him. Even with the deal, he knew he was trading his freedom
It's over
for
with.
years behind bars. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in prison. He would not be eligible for parole until he served at least 10 years. Nate filed an appeal to get a reduced sentence. It was rejected. Most of Nate's crew got much lighter sentences. Scuzz and Topher each received 30 months. The rest got between 30 and 46 months.
That's what it gets you, nigga. You could have been stopped when you was ahead. You could have been stopped, bro. Now you ran it up so crazy, niggas started dying, and you got 12 years. Tough.
Gio, the hitman who ended Brendan Butler, also pleaded guilty. He was handed a life sentence with a possibility of parole in 8 years. It was a sad end to a crazy story. But Nate's fame didn't disappear behind bars. If anything, his story got bigger. While serving his sentence, Nate Norman became popular online. People were fascinated by how a small-town pizza delivery boy built a multi-million-dollar smuggling empire. They made documentaries, blogs, and podcasts dissecting his rise and fall.
That's
That
crazy.
fascination eventually reached Hollywood. In 2014, filmmakers released a movie based on Nate's story. It was titled Kid Cannabis.
I did not know
Turning
this.
Into a cultural icon. By then, Nate was free to watch it himself because in December 2013, Nate was released. This photo was taken by his parents when he came out of prison.
That's
Today,
hard.
Nate owns a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning business and has a family. But the story didn't end well for Topher,
That's hard, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
his partner. The
He really won. Nah, he didn't win.
guy
He
who
didn't
helped
win.
them since the very first run. In 2019, Topher got into a fight at a bar. Things got physical. The other man pulled out a weapon. Topher lost his life.
Everyone is just shocked by Clark's death. He was well known, especially in North Idaho.
Nate Norman thought money would make people love him. And it worked for a
Damn.
while. But when you're only loved for what you have, you'll be alone when you lose it. Visual venture.
Damn. Oh my God. Hey, that was a great video. Let me know what y'all think about this shit down below, man. It's your boy Prophet, man. We gone, man. Here we go.